13. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. In the evening, he would speak with guests. The guests would usually take coffee and other refreshments, but he would request a glass of warm milk at 9 o'clock. He would stay speaking until 9:30 or 10, and then Mr. Agrawal would drive him back to the YMCA. Prabupada would also do his laundry every day. He washed his clothes in the Agarwal's bathroom and hung them to dry outside. He sometimes accompanied the Agrawal to the laundromat and was interested to see how Americans washed and dried their clothes. To Sally, he seemed very interested in the American ways and people. Sally, our boy Bridge was 6 or 7 months old when the Swami came. And the Indians love boys. The Swami liked Bridge. He was there when Bridge first stood. The first time Bridge made the attempt and actually succeeded, the Swami stood up and clapped. It was a celebration. Another time, our baby teethed on the Swami's shoes. I thought, oh, those shoes. They have been all over India, and my kid is chewing on them. You know how a mother would feel. Almost every night, he used to sit in the next door neighbor's backyard. We sat out there sometimes with him, or we stayed in the living room. One time something happened with our little girl, Pamela, who was only 3 years old. I used to take her to Sunday school, and she learned about Jesus in Sunday school. Then when she would see Swamiji with his robes on and everything, she called him Swami Jesus. And there's one time when it first dawned on us what she was saying. She called him Swami Jesus, and Swami smiled and said, "And a little child shall lead them." It was so funny. Prabhupada spoke to various groups in the community. He spoke at the Lions Club in early October and received a formal document. Be it known that A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami was a guest at the Lions Club of Butler, PA, and as an expression of appreciation for services rendered, the club tenders this acknowledgement. He also gave a talk at the Y and St. Fidelis Seminary College in Herman, Pennsylvania, and he spoke regularly to the guests at the Agarwal home. When Professor Larson, the chairman of the philosophy department at Slippery Rock State College, read in the Butler Eagle of a visiting Indian Swami and Vedic scholar, he phoned the Agrawal's home to invite Prabhupada to lecture on campus. Alan Larson, I called the number given in the newspaper article, but it turned out that the Swamiji was actually staying in a room at the YMCA. When I arrived, he was waiting on the street corner and I picked him up. He seemed very much alone. When we were driving to Slippery Rock, I asked him to pronounce his name for me so I would have it right when I introduced him to my class. He said, Swamiji Bhaktivedanta. And then he proceeded to tell me what that meant. Since I was not used to Indian names, he had to repeat it several times before I got it right. He showed no impatience with my slowness. Even at this early junction of our association, I was convinced that this man had an inner stability and strength that would be difficult to shake. And this initial impression was further reinforced throughout the rather busy day. 100 students from several classes had gathered to hear the lecture as Prabhupada, in his natural, unrehearsed manner, walked down the aisle, up the 3 wooden steps and onto the plain wooden stage. He sat down erect and cross-legged and began softly singing Hare Krishna, his eyes closed. Then he stood and spoke without a lectern or microphone and answered questions from the audience. The program lasted only 50 minutes and ended abruptly with a bell signaling the next class. Alan Larson, after the first class, I had a short conversation with the Swamiji while sitting outside on a bench at the campus lawn. Most of the time when he was not directly engaged in conversation, he would repeat a short prayer while moving prayer beads through his fingers. He was sitting up cross-legged, and we were speaking back and forth. He said that the trees around us were beautiful, and he asked, "What kind of trees are these?" I replied, "They are shade trees." Then he said that it was too bad they weren't fruit or nut trees to provide food and benefit people. At 1 o'clock, Prabhupada lectured again. Afterward, he accompanied Dr. Mohan Sharma, a member of the faculty who had attended the lecture, and his 16-year-old daughter Minnie to Dr. Sharma's campus residence. Prabhupada accepted warm milk and dried fruit, and at Dr. Sharma's request, blessed his home and touched the forehead of his daughter in a gesture of benediction. Around 3 o'clock, Professor Larson drove him back to Butler. Alan Larson, the Swamiji seemed to present himself as an Indian scholar who had come for a short time to do translation work. I never thought of him as a missionary, but during the course of the day, there grew in me a warm affection for this man because he was unmistakably a good man who had found his way to a stability and peace that is very rare. The lectures in Pennsylvania gave Prabhupada his first readings of how his message would be received in America. At Commonwealth Pier in Boston, he had stated in his poem, "I'm sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel gladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life." Now, this principle was actually being tested in the field. Would they be able to understand? Were they interested? Would they surrender? So with that, we can end here. We are just seeing the initial stages of when Srila Prabhupada came to America, staying with Sali Agarwal's house, and how then he's being invited to speak at the YMCA and also at the college, giving a class and all of that. We can see that how in the beginning itself, where whoever came across Srila Prabhupada, they could tell that he is not like a normal this, but rather how stable, how steady internal strength he had. And that was very obvious. So it's not like, all the fake gurus or anybody else coming and speaking like that, but we can tell that how Srila Prabhupada internally, his focus is really benefiting the entire world. And even to look at the tree and say that, I wish that this tree was able to give some fruits or vegetables or something like that. So he's always thinking about others. He's always thinking how things can benefit others and for the welfare, true welfare of the society. That's what we can see from even in the beginning days of Srila Prabhupada's activities. With that, we can go on to chanting.